Hi there, welcome back to the channel. A few years ago I did a video on using Maschine with Reason, and that was actually dragging the WAV samples from Maschine into Reason, into blocks or in the sequencer. Changed my approach in recent months. I wanted to share with you another way that I'm using Maschine with Reason. So if you want to see how that's done, stay tuned and please subscribe to the channel and share some of the content. Thanks. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got an empty Reason rack. First thing we're going to do is drag in a Maschine VST. So you should all be used to using VSTs in Reason now. So if I open up this instance here, and then on the MK3, I'm just going to choose a sample pack for us to. So this one will do. And then as you choose that there, you'll see it maps all the elements into these 16, I think, different lanes, kicks, claps, snares, hi-hats, and so on. And if I hit play in Reason, I'm just going to keep this open for a sec, you can see that that plays. Okay, so in the first video that I showed a few years ago, I would drag here, holding click, and drag into the sequencer or the block the actual wave of that, and that will actually create that. I can loop that, put it in a block and whatever. So I'm going to show you a different approach to doing that now. So again, we're going to create inside Reason alongside Maschine some mix channels. Okay, I'm going to name this mix channel kick, and if you hit tab on the Reason rack, I'll flip it round. If you click optional inputs and outputs, you'll see there's some optional audio outputs here. I'm going to drag 3 and 4 to the input of that new mix channel that we've just created here. And if I pull down the mixer, the SSL here, and hit play, you'll see nothing's happening on that mix channel, but the actual Maschine VST is playing and you can hear the sounds. Okay, so why is that? That's because back in Maschine we need to map that kick to a destination. Okay, and I map it to X2 here. Not sure why we don't use X1, it doesn't seem to work, but let's just have a quick look. So if I hit play now, you can see that that mix channel is firing. Let's just stick it on 1. You see that doesn't work. If anybody knows why that is, I'm not sure, whether 1's reserved for something, but 2, 3 in sequence will map out all these different elements down to 16. So we have the kick firing there now. If we go back into Reason, we create another mix channel. We can create a clap, say, and again we're going to flip the rack and we're going to map X, 5 and 6 to the input of that mix channel. So again, if we hit play, that's not going to work because we've not set a destination for a clap. So we have a clap here. Is it actually doing anything? No, it's not. So we're going to go with, we can probably put some in or something like that. So let's just drop 1 in here, 1 in here, 1 in here, and 1 in here. Let's see if we hear that. Yeah, we have a clap. So what we're going to do is on the clap set the destination to 3, and if we hit play here, you can see the claps firing there. Okay, what I'm just going to do, just so that this works for the demo, is just shorten that loop to where I've put the clap in. Let's just go for that, that's fine. So you can see they're firing independently now on those mix channels. Okay, so at this point, if I can continue mapping all these elements out to all the different mix channels if I want to, the good thing about that is each of these elements in here have additional processing going, EQ, compression, so on. You can do that inside Maschine here, or you can just say none, and you can process it all in Reason. So again, I'm sure you all know on the particular mix channels you've got show insert effects, and then of course you can start dragging in here compression and EQ and any other effect that you want to put on that sound and control it from the Reason side if you want to be able to do that. One thing you'll notice though is while I'm playing this, is we're getting sounds of all the different elements through the VST instance. So you don't really want that if you just wanting to control the individual channels. So what I tend to do here is open up Machine, hit tab to switch to the mixer, and then on the master output I set it to none. That way I'm only hearing the sounds now that I've mapped through to the mix channel, so I don't get all those other elements that I necessarily don't want or haven't mapped. Again, there's ways you can control that by removing them from a machine, but that's just the way I do it. So like I say, the cool thing there is you can control those effects on the mix channels, add in your own effects in Reason to manage that whole space. So you might be asking now, okay, that's great, but how do I manage those mix channels? So in terms of blocks and the sequence, okay, so when you drag in a WAV file in here, you can add it into where you want it to be, drop it in, drop it out, so on. I have two approaches to the way I've been doing this recently, and it's using automation. So I have another video on the channel around automation in Reason, so go take a look at that. I'll put a link to it up here. But I use the mute in terms of automation here. So if you right click on the mute for a particular mix channel and do edit automation, you get this mute on and off lane. So in here I can say that I want you to play the kick for the first 4, and then when we get into the 5th I want it to drop out. So you'll see up the top here the mute button goes red, it's got a green box around it to show automation is engaged, and then I can do that with the clap as well. So if I right click edit automation, and I can just do the inversion of that really, so we can just do that down to here, so we don't have a clap to start with. The kick's going to drop out and the clap's going to drop back in, so you can see that automation firing up here on the mix channel. Okay, so that works pretty easy. I'm going to take that out from here and just delete those two. So the other way you can do this, and again it depends how many elements you map in, how many VST instances you're using to get additional sounds into your track. This could get complicated, but there is another way of doing this. If you go to blocks, and we've got a 8-bar loop here, we could start doing things like this. So we could say all elements, and then in here we're going to actually enable all the elements to play. Quick way of doing this is just do that. So here we've got the kick and the clap firing at the same time again, but then what we might want to do is just have an element where we're just firing the kick, say. So we want to mute out the clap, so maybe on the intro of the track we don't have the clap, but obviously we want the kick. Spot the deliberate. So these are literally just on and off. Okay, so now what we can do is go back into song mode, and I can start using those blocks. So in this 8-bar loop we might say I'm going to do the kick for the first 4, and then we're going to drop into all elements from there, so we'll get the kick and the clap. So I'm just going to start it here for time. So we just have the kick, and then the kick and the clap work. So the mute is just working the way the automation works, whether you're using block or whether you're just doing it straight into song mode there. So one thing to be aware of when you're doing this is changes to the machine environment. So if I'm not happy with this sample pack that I've chosen here, if I start browsing away from this, we're going to choose that kit now, you might think that because we've done all the wire and everything set up that this will continue to work. Just be aware that it won't. So the wiring is still set up in Reason, so you've still got your wiring from your VSTs right from the VST right through to your mix channels, but you've lost the mapping destination for each lane here. So if you click on one in here and go here, you'll find that there's no mapping. So if we just quickly adjust those to X1 and 2, you should find, no, we haven't got anything on here, so let's just drop. It's not a clap, it's a snare, but you get the picture. So just be aware that not all the sample packs have the sounds in the same position. I believe kick's normally the first one, but whether it's got claps and hi-hats and all that could be different. So you just need to be aware that you're going to have to remap those. So be pretty certain when you're starting out here, make sure you've got the right pack that you want for your track. So as I say, you can add many of these instances here, that's not a problem, and you can use as many mix channels as you like, but just stay organized, name things, color them, so you can see where you are as you're building up your tracks. It does get complicated when you get into the 20s, 30s plus of the different mix channels to manage your track. Issues, in terms of issues, the only thing I've really seen with this is the VST sometimes loses the plot a bit. So if I open this up, I've only got one instance of Maschine, and again the MK3 is controlling everything fine here, but sometimes if I create a second instance, let's see if we can make it do it, and we drop it over here, when I open this one up, you can see I'm turning the VST on there, and I can't, at the moment I'm not sure, other than locking it, whether that works. You'll see it's still not. Okay, so it looks like there, by hitting plugin, by enabling the plugin, it seems to have picked that up. That's weird. Can't stop it now. Not seen that before. Okay, there's one way to stop it. There you go. Let me just try that again. So if I drop that in, I open it up and I press plugin. You see that behaviour is different again. Oh no, there we go. It just took a bit of time to actually pick that up. Just drop the sound on that a bit. So let me just flip back. I hit plugin on this one. Seems to be still controlling the other one, but anyway, just be aware of that. I'm sure somebody who's a Maschine user will know why that's happening and be able to tell me. I'm not a super heavy user of it, but I'm using it more and more recently, so that's just something to be aware of. My personal preference here is just using the wiring now to the mix channels rather than taking the WAV from Maschine into the sequencer. It just feels a little bit better to me to do it that way. Some people prefer to work with the WAVs, whatever you're comfortable with. I'll put a link to part 1 in the bio so you can see that other approach to using the WAVs, but both of them seem to work well. You get the power of Maschine inside Reason and all the power of Reason as well. So if you like the content I'm putting out, please subscribe to the channel, hit a few likes, share some of the videos, and look forward to creating the next piece of content. Yeah.